The Manufacturers Association of Nigeria has expressed grave concerns over the apparent reintroduction of the 4% free on-board charge on imports by the Nigerian Customs Service, which became effective on August 4, 2025. MAN also stated that for high-value imports, such as raw materials and machinery, this will result in a significant net increase in cost and exacerbates the financial burden on manufacturers, adding that costs associated with the 4% FOB charge will generally increase the import cost of raw materials not available locally above the 6.6 trillion recorded in 2024. It said that reports showed that the regime of 1% CISS and the 7% cost of collection fee ended with the introduction of a single 4% FOB charge. Joining us on this show to discuss MAN's position on the 4% free on-board charge by the Nigerian Customs Service is Segun Ajayi-Kadir, Director General, Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. Good morning, Mr. Ajayi-Kadir, and thank you very much for joining us on the morning show.
Good morning, Dr. Abati, Ayo, and Rufai. It's a pleasure to be on your show.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, Mr. Ajayi-Kadir, let's start with some clarifications. Under Incoterms, that's the International Chamber of Commerce, terms for international commerce. You have free on board, freight on board. You have CIT, cost insurance freight. You have, DDP, and all of that. So these are international standards. But now MAN is saying that FOB of 4% that Customs says it wants to collect is not acceptable, but rather, 7% collection fee and 1% CISS, which existed before, is what Manufacturers Association of Nigeria would prefer. But in any case, whether it's CISS or it is a collection fee, all of this naturally would invariably be transferred to the consumer, because MAN phrases his argument like, oh, we want to protect the consumer. Whether it's even CIT or DDP or FOB, it's the consumer at the end of the day that will get it. So what is so special about the concern that, MAN is expressing, and what is the global best practice? Because all these Incoterms expressions, they are international regulations.
Well, thank you again, Dr. Abati. We are coming from a background of a high-cost environment that needed to be brought down so that we can increase production and ensure that we have a sector that is able to compete with imported products and is able to be competitive when it exports to other clients. What we have seen is that in charging this 4% FOB is going to significantly impact our cost structure and at the same time set us apart from other comparable economies, particularly within the West African sub-region, in terms of what we charge. There's already the established duty for raw materials, for spare parts, and for machines. Those ones are set by the World Customs Organization, and they are driven by HS codes. We do not have any issues with that. But the additional ones, like the FOB, is what we worry about. And we say it has to be comparable. Between Senegal, Ghana, and Cote d'Ivoire, their FOB is between 0.5% to 1%. Taking ours to 4% far outclasses the 1% CIS and the 7% cost of collection that Customs previously collected. Meanwhile, when Customs was collecting this 1% CIS and 7% cost of collection, they were able to exceed their target for 2024. So there's really no imperative for increased earnings by customs. And if it is to fund their operations, is it that they were underfunded in 2024, yet they were able to outclass their set targets? So what we are saying is that we should direct attention to trade facilitation and reduce the cost of import. Because like you rightly said in your intro, everything boils down to what comes to the consumer. And we are trying to beat down the rate of inflation, the rate of increase in inflation that we only managed to bring to 21.88% in the last quarter. We are commending government for stabilizing the economy. This introduction is going to escalate costs and drive up inflation and reduce our competitiveness because we compete against third countries in terms of what we import. So we are saying that customs should kindly consider the overall impact on the economy, on the manufacturer, on the consumers, on the taxes we are going to pay to government, because if we reduce our capacity utilization and profitability, government is going to be impacted. And this administration has announced that it has focused on domestic production, increasing domestic production, reducing the burden of cost. So that is the concern we have with the FOB.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Ajayi-Kadir, for expressing that. I think when it comes to this administration, it's a challenge between revenue generation and supporting sectors like yourself, the manufacturing sector, and FOB is part of this. Now, I hear you in terms of the fact that the cost would trickle down to consumers. But what's the alternative? Because even though you say that they seem to be able to break even, but the government can argue that they need to generate revenue in order to meet other responsibilities in other sectors beyond the manufacturing sector, and the other ways where you can cushion the effect of these costs. What would you say to that?
Okay, so we need to set the balance. Will you be concerned about baking a bigger cake so that you can have more share for the tax authorities? Or you are going to kill those who are going to bake the cake? You see, the truth of it is that, and in this case, it's so easy to make the comparison, that whilst we were maintaining the old regime, customs was able to exceed its target. And government revenue will be better boosted when you tax the fruits and not the seed. When you are directly increasing our costs, you are hitting on productivity. You are going to make us underperform. Already, the contribution of manufacturing to GDP is less than 9%. And in some economies, it's 15–20%. So if you are able to support if you are able to reduce the cost of production, you will expand the output of the sector, and then we'll be able to contribute to this revenue that we know that government needs. So we are not going to in any way undermine government revenue targets. I mean, I just said that customs last year, they exceeded their target. So, and if you are able to incentivize production, you are going to have a trickle-down effect on so many other sectors. You are going to impact jobs. You are going to impact government revenue. You are going to reduce social tension. You are going to improve innovation. You are going to expand investment. There's a general perception now among manufacturers, drawing from our manufacturers' confidence index that we normally do quarterly. We have seen a 2% increase in the confidence that manufacturers have in the economy. And we can trace it directly to measures that have been taken by government to stabilize the economy. This government was commended by Okonjo-Iweala for stabilizing the economy, but it warned that we needed to sustain the tempo and reduce the pains that accompanied the reforms, necessary reforms, I must say. So this is not one of it. And what we are saying is that we are not going to lose revenue. In the long run, we are going to actually build more revenue for government.
Okay. So I'd like to ask you now, you have a platform to yourself. What then do you want?
Okay, so what we want is, one, the suspension of the implementation of the 4% FOB. and that we are able to revert to the 1% CIS plus 7% cost of collection, whilst customs engages in a conversation with stakeholders, for us to be able to look at the overall impact. Because you see, you don't just make government policies without consulting, without making a technical assessment of the impact on the economy. You see, we are sustaining, this government has focused on things that we consider to be key to getting us out of the mess that they made. You see, it's no excuse that you made a mess. You campaigned, you got people to elect you, and then you have a job to do. This government has shown the tendency to do the job. Now, we have achieved some stability. We want a situation where it is not reversed. We shouldn't have all these kind of intervening factors, these distractions. We should just continue on that trajectory so that we are able to achieve the growth that we desire. So this should be suspended, and we have a conversation as to what is happening around us. What will be the impact if you take this 4%? Is it better for you to focus on trade facilitation and reduce your focus on revenue generation? Can we calculate to see how in the long run the economy is going to be better for it? The 30 million Nigerians are going to be better for it? Let us have this kind of conversation. And we are even saying this can go on between now and December, so that by January 1, when the 4 tax bills are going to kick into effect, we can have a simultaneous implementation so that we enjoy the boost. This economy needs a huge infusion of growth levers. And this economy has shown resilience. The private sector people have borne the brunt of the maladministration of the past. Now we are having light at the end of the tunnel. Don't let us quench this light. That's just what we are saying. So, and this conversation is going to help us. Customs will make more money. Nigeria will benefit in terms of tax. Manufacturers will be able to produce. Manufacturing sector in Nigeria, the biggest, obviously the largest economy in Africa, cannot be contributing less than 10% to GDP.
Okay.
So, I mean, that is what we are saying. We want collaboration with customs to be able to get out of it.
Mr. Ajayi-Kadir, you have not answered the question I asked you about global best practice. When I was very...
okay,
just hold on. When I refer to FOB, CIT, DDP, these are not terms invented by the Nigerian customs. These are Incoterms expressions as determined by the International Chamber of Commerce under international trade law, and they are applied internationally. So are you saying that, shipping, international shipping is out of the, international trade law regime that is globally recognized? You have not answered that question. But the question I would like to ask you this time around is about turnaround time at the ports. Because one of the things that man is complaining about is about demurrage and all of that, and the Nigerian government has been telling us perennially that they are trying to improve performance at the ports. If you could comment on that, if you don't have information about, international trade law.
Okay, no, so the international trade law, I completely agree with you that these are universally applied. But what I'm saying is that it is left to the individual country, the countries that subscribe to these laws, to determine what is good for its economy. It is in the same space that the Nigeria Customs Service has announced that they were suspending the collection of CIS and 7% cut of collection. So you have the discretion to be able to do what works for your economy. And what we are saying is that even if you are going to charge FOB, because I think that's the kernel of your question, it can come lower. You can be at par with your comparable countries in West Africa. And I've cited that it is 0.5, from 0.5% to 1%. Now, to answer your question, the issue of turnaround time at the ports persists. In fact, with the introduction of Biodogu, and I must admit that we are in talks with customs to be able to see how they can overcome the glitch. For the past 2 weeks or so, our members have not been able to even clear their goods, and it's incurring demurrage. So there is need for customs to speedily address this so that our members can clear their goods. Already, we are having stock out in some factories, and when it is time for us to eventually clear, we need to discuss the issue of the demurrage that we have incurred, not because of our own lack of readiness to clear, but because it was not possible for us to go through the process at the port. It remains a challenge, and it has even significantly increased the cost of imports. I did say that the cost of bringing a 40-foot container from Singapore to Nigeria is lower than what it takes to take it from the port to Agbara, which is just 26 kilometers away. So we have significant challenges in that. And we have to peel this off gradually. We understand that customs is trying to improve its processes by introducing this automation and making it seamless. But they have glitches. We are patient enough to agree with them, but we shouldn't suffer the repercussion. And that's why I say we are having that engagement.
Thank you. Thank you so much.